Oh, it's going to be that last match of the day. But I feel like both of these matches have something to offer. I think for Sakura and DhillDucks, they're really excited to get like their first win on the board. But then when it comes to Extinction and Team Liquid, those are two teams that really did come out on top last week. So how can they start to separate themselves?
Well, very soon we'll be finding out. Our first match in this region is going to be Sakura going up against DhillDucks. So let's discuss the two rosters and also what we've seen so far from them. As you said, they're both coming off of a loss, so this is an opportunity for both of them to show us what they got and redeem themselves. And now, of course, the Stage 2 Sakura roster is sporting 4 players from the now disbanded Rad Esports, and we also have Clear joining that roster from Nightmare. So we do know what to expect from those individual players. They did get 3-0'd last week by his former team, Nightmare. It was a rough showing.
It was a bit of a rough showing. It was indeed. But I feel like this is a pretty fun team still. Good to see Clear getting some playtime, of course, after pretty much riding the bench on Nightmare. But Clear's hero pool is like pretty interesting, right? Because, you know, you can play the Diva, play the Junker Queen as well, one of Clear's go-to heroes, and then we also get to see the Hazard. So they enabled that with a lot of speed. Juno and Lucio being played for that team, of course. Right there as well, we're seeing some, you know, Hitori as well is going to show up in this series as well. Or later on today, I should say, rather. So this Sakura roster, I'm really excited to see how they perform today. It was dominant against DhillDucks last week. But, you know, it's a new day today. So see what they can bring to the table.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's how days work.
Old footage also, I think, by the way, like of the old Sakura. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see any of those
they changed
players
regions. They went so bad in Stage 1, they were like, we're going to try NA instead. And they picked up a great roster here.
No one knows us here. It's a new start, truly. Well, DhillDucks, Johnny, you call them the Aura team. I'm not entirely sure why you call them the Aura team. But quite frankly,
just
if
look
you
at the
watch
duck,
them
Zoe.
throughout... Okay, it's a duck.
All about the
crown
duck
and a jersey. It's got all the right ingredients for a good time. And quite frankly, they did impress during the relegation and promotion matches. They clawed their way through the lower bracket. They were knocked down by Shikigami and then took them down 3-0 again in order to qualify. So, you know, the drama is on point. But what can we expect for them in this stage?
Okay, first of all, Zoe, the DhillDucks are taking over, okay? They have like 3 rosters. They picked up Apply to be their co-streamer. DhillDucks is aiming for world domination, okay? They're gradually, stage by stage, they're just gonna gain influence in this scene. So they got tons of aura. We can question, you know, the play. Are they gonna survive this stage or have to fight in promotion and relegation again? It's looking quite likely, but watch out for the DhillDucks. They're taking over in the overall scene.
Well. Okay, listen, their first match was against Extinction, which is formerly known as Avidity, so there's very high-quality players obviously in there. Maybe Sakura, maybe this is going to be more evenly matched. We're about to find out as you guys are going to take this one away, please.
All right, thank you so much, Zoe. Johnny, excited to be able to cast with you, especially looking at these two teams. I know you also had a chance to look at DhillDucks during that promotion relegation. Last week was maybe not the greatest start for them, but I still feel like they had bright spots. PDK really showing up on the Sojourn. I feel like that was where we really started to see them come into true form looking at that last Saravasa map.
Yeah, I don't think DhillDucks is going to bring too many surprises to the table here. I doubt we'll see the Alari coming out like it did in EMEA. I think it'll be pretty straightforward, right? We're going to see hit scan being played by PDK, and they combine for some kind of hit scan and tracer kind of lineup as well. So it's going to be pretty straightforward from this team. I think the big player to watch out for on DhillDucks is going to be Baz, in my opinion. I think Baz did a great job on the Hazard to set up some of those team fights last week as well, and can flex over to the Winston. So heading to Ilios here, we'll have to see how they perform, but look out for PDK and Baz.
Yeah, I love that you brought up that point about Baz, because I feel like those hazard walls specifically and the use of that cooldown was what stuck out to me about how Baz was really able to help initiate a lot of those engagements. And so I don't think it's too much of a surprise as we take a look at the spawns to see Baz and even Clear hover over that pick.
Yeah, Hazard has been really potent in these kind of compositions. You know, we're really kind of in a pick-oriented meta now, Rose, where Freya is able to secure so much burst damage onto these targets that you're kind of looking for your tanks or flex damage players to follow up on that damage. I mean, we even saw Ilari, like I mentioned in the EMEA as well, to try and follow up on that Freya damage, right? In this case, Razor is going over to the Reaper here, so it's going to be pretty aggressive. You can see DhillDucks pushing the pace almost immediately.
Yeah, both the Reaper as well as this Kiriko are going to be great ways to follow up on that hazard damage. You can see right away that Baz is able to get that first draw onto Peace. And so now with the Genji out of the way, it gives a lot more clear space for Baz and the rest of the team to start to push a little bit more forward. Now that the point is unlocked, they're going to be able to grab that pretty easily, but not before we see these Freya start to get set up on the high ground.
Yeah, and this is kind of neutral where you're really looking for your Freya players to have a lot of impact that you can engage on the back of Baz. Just trading for a little bit while Nabok gets stuck behind this jagged wall. This would be a lot of momentum here, actually. You gotta be careful.
Oh, you got the Violent Leap away, and you also had that Suzu on top, but it's just not enough to be able to keep Baz sustained and in the rest of this fight. So a really great pick and a great start here as we see the rest of this team be able to follow it up. I mean, X10 with these big picks, clear as well, and that's going to be another point flip.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for those hazard walls because you can get punished so easily in these kind of compositions now. So it's going to be up to the Freyas here once more. X10 now built up that Bola shot. You build up these Frey ultimates so fast. So now with some high ground positioning available, so you can get some good burst damage in and then capitalize on that for the engage.
Ooh, you see Razor go ahead and teleport in, jump down from the tightrope, but there isn't a Bola shot that ends up connecting, coming through from DhillDucks. In fact, it's going to be Sakura with X10 being able to get that elimination onto Baz, but the fight's not over yet. X10 with this Kitsune rush in tow is also going to be able to get in so deep to the backline, being able to get that access to both Red X and Frothy Philly, and a team wipe here is going to secure yet another team fight win for Sakura.
Yeah, and there's some great disengages here. Capitalize, getting some poke damage in while DhillDucks are trying to engage, trying to get some of this position, right? Instead, Sakura, they sit back, they look for the Freya damage to come in, and then they secure the picks available to them. Having just used the Kitsune rush there, oh, X10 gets another pick here. Okay, X10 on fire pretty early on to start the series.
Has great sightlines, so I feel like it's even easier to be able to pick up all of those players coming out of spawn on DhillDucks. Even Clear is going to have a fantastic vantage point, bullying Baz off of the high ground and still maintaining this forward positioning. Now taking a look at some of the ultimate economy, I feel like just having the sound barrier in tow, as well as this downpour, really enables this Sakura roster to just keep playing forward.
Yeah, you can be so selective, right? Kitsune rush comes out here. It's going to be the downpour in turn, and we're just trading ultimates. Peace finds a pick onto PDK, and now you're already in a 4 versus 5. 85% heroes as well. This is kind of DhillDucks, they have to go for it with their ultimates.
And it's just going to be off the back of the sound barriers. Redix lets it rip, it hits 4. Baz is just not barely going to survive long enough to be able to get that downpour as Razor goes in with the Death Blossom. Finding a pick onto X10 is good, but it's just not going to be enough as the rest of Sakura is still alive. X10 goes down with that Bola shot available, but with Z coming up with the Kitsune rush, I feel like this is a good way to be able to close out this map. But as I say that, PDK with, oh my gosh,
Can't get the
Johnny,
touch.
they don't get there.
Oh, they couldn't get the touch. There was some nice picks coming in, but can't quite get there in time. Still, though, fairly competitive. Got a couple of picks there to wrap things up, but pretty dominant showing from Sakura to kick it off here on Ilios.
Yeah, I feel like after Sakura were able to get that flip, they just had the ultimate economy. They also had that positioning, and it made it much easier for X10 to be able to get those initial picks that made it tough for DhillDucks to ever come in as a full team.
Yeah, wow, X10 already 11-1 here on the Freya. You know, if you've been into the Overwatch fantasy, Rose, you know we've been struggling getting some stats out of these Freya players. So I think the fact that X10 is already 11-1 on the Freya, that's like mightily impressive, because usually Freya, not the kind of hero that generates a lot of damage done. Instead, it's way more about the burst damage and finding some kind of isolated pick. So yeah, X10 off to a really hot start here on the first round, and now for a bit of a flank here onto Well. So you can rotate and find some nice bolts.
We're going to see both of these Freyas try to set up on these angles. And as we take a look at these team rosters as well, I mean, Razor comes back out on the Reaper, Peace on the Genji. I feel like both of these teams have to play so differently around both of these individual DPS picks. But it's going to come down to which Freya is going to be able to actually find an elimination first. See the Suzu already come out for DhillDucks as Clear continues to move his way forward as Peace now being able to find PDK on the Freya. I mean, this is just quick eliminations to follow. Sakura again, very dominant showing here, Johnny, as the first team fight concludes.
Yeah, I mean, it's so brutal because you're playing this Reaper, it doesn't really contribute anything in the neutral, and you kind of have to like shadow step up and, you know, capitalize on some kind of damage, go for some kind of engage, but like you know, you're playing against a composition of Genji, Freya, Lucio Kiri. Like, all these characters have so much mobility to them that it's really hard to catch them and try to capitalize on this damage. Kind of questioning the Reaper pick here from DhillDucks. Haven't been able to make it work just yet.
I feel like a lot of that is because we did see that Tracer ban. Razor maybe having to go over to a hero that doesn't necessarily gel with the composition in quite the same way. It's a trade to start off this next team fight, but the longer this extends, the more percentage that Sakura is going to be able to capture. And another nice vantage point as X10 tries to get this bola shot lined up. Who's going to be in the sight lines first? It's going to be Baz that decides to step up to the plate, but not a good enough time yet to let that bola shot rip. You're really trying to look for one of those low health targets, but Red X does find Peace first.
Yeah, that's a nice pick there. Now you just got to capitalize on it there. Clear, dropping low as well. So this is going to be DhillDucks securing their first fight win here on well. Nice to be able to get that on the back of Red X pick there. I'm sure with the help of his team as well, but didn't even have to spend an ultimate here. So DhillDucks face a big disadvantage as Peace is browsing social media. We gotta focus on the bigger parts here. But, you know, DhillDucks here, the fact you don't have to invest an ultimate to win that fight, that's quite big if you're looking for a bit of a comeback here.
The comeback is real. It's so comebackable, as they might say. But Baz can't extend too far forward, already taking a lot of damage, so has to disengage and go back to the team.
Nice wall.
As the jagged wall is going to come in and make sure that it saves Razor's life. Red X lets the sound bigger rip, and now it's time for the bola shot from PDK, but it doesn't land with an elimination. Clear, though, unfortunately, doesn't land this downport either. It's going to be a trade of these tanks as DhillDucks. Actually, Johnny, they have to expend quite a bit there in order to win the team fight.
Yeah, they have to expend a lot of ultimates. Obviously, don't have a lot of room as Razor comes in with the 2k on the Death Blossom as well. And ultimate, you wouldn't typically get a lot of value out of. The fact you can secure 2 picks there, get a bit of a reset for your team. And now winning a couple of fights here, Rose. You have the Kitsune Rush still. It's still, you can remain hopeful. You can remain hopeful here, Rose.
As a DhillDucks fan, you absolutely do. I mean, Frothy Philly has been able to do some nasty things on this Kiriko. And with this Kitsune Rush, you can just lay it down main. It's going to be Z that rips it first, and Frothy Philly can't get it out. It's time to use it. It does get laid out over the point, but not before Peace is able to get so many dash resets. Doesn't even need to use the blade either to finish up the rest of these picks. And so DhillDucks, they're only going to be able to capture about 80% here until Sakura gets it back.
That was brutal. That was just an insane Genji play from Peace right there. Didn't even have to pop the Dragon Blade as well. So you traded Kitsune Rushes and you just won the fight convincingly. Really good for Sakura here. Coming up to the last fight territory here on well. You still have that bola shot and Dragon Blade. Set up your fight win condition here.
Oh, it's just so much burst damage. You can already see the bola shot from X10. And landing it into Baz is going to chunk away so much of that health that it makes it easier for Razor at PDK to get cleaned up as well. Even though it's not the blade that does the job, it's enough for Z to get in there with that swift step and make sure that you hit the target. And that's going to be a 2-0 for Sakura starting out this match on Ilios.
Yeah, really impressive result there from Sakura, doing what they do best, of course. I did think that like they have the potential to be such a great team, and I think they're showing off here as well. But they do have the individual skill here. Sitting back, waiting for X10 to pop off on the Freya, and then capitalizing in turn. Nice little Genji play from Peace there as well. So yeah, Sakura, they're putting things together in a pretty crucial matchup, of course, because you are battling to avoid relegation here in Stage 2. And so now Sakura off to a hot start in this pretty pivotal matchup against DhillDucks.
I'm kind of wondering, though, how much this Tracer ban does come into play. I mean, Razor, for the majority of their first series in the first weekend, was playing Tracer. So I kind of feel like this was a smart ban coming out from Sakura to actually make sure that Razor has to play something else. Yeah.
I mean, they did play Tracer, like you said, on Ilios last week as well. But we've also seen Razor flex over to the Genji, play some Pharah on King's Row, for example, as well. So we know that Razor has, you know, a couple of picks in the hero pool as well. You could have brought out the Genji, for example, like Peace did, but instead opted for the Reaper. Didn't really work out there. You got to play with pace with this Reaper pick to like really make it work. You got to capitalize on some of these rotations, but it felt like it was just Sakura sitting back, disengaging for most of that Ilios. And then after a nice couple of Freya shots, they capitalize on that and follow up on the damage.
Wow. I mean, if you just take a look at the stats, I think it does speak to Sakura just being able to have that very dominant 2-0 in Ilios. A little bit closer, I guess, on Well, but I think it still comes down to a lot of where you're actually finding the engagements. Maybe some of the bullish shots definitely helping you soften up some of those targets. And I guess the Rupert Death Blossom, it did end up kind of being a valuable, showy team fight win, but yeah.
It's rare you get to see the Death Blossom play of the game. So the fact that you just got 2K, you know, we cannot take those. Yeah, it's looking a bit tough here for DhillDucks, you know, after such a result on the first map here. You were kind of hoping maybe that against a team like Sakura, we can at least compete. So, you know, an opportunity to claw themselves back into this series, of course. But for DhillDucks, realistically, if you want to avoid relegation, this kind of feels like one of those matchups you have to be competitive in and, you know, hope to come away with a win, because Sakura is kind of evenly matched, I would have thought, going into this series, but it's looking like Sakura is the better team of the two after just our first map here. We'll see where we go next. Both teams actually selected King's Row in their previous matches in week 1, of course. So might seem likely that we head back to King's Row and maybe get to see some far-right gameplay, but we'll have to see what both teams have in store.
I do feel like King's Row would be a great pick, but then I think that's where we see even better litmus tests between these two teams. If they both want to play the King's Row, then who actually does have the better composition? And does any counterplay actually come in? Because I feel like you did have to take a different approach depending on the enemy that you were facing last week on King's Row versus what you might expect from the opposition this time around.
Yeah, but I think neither of these teams are really going to change things up too much. You know, maybe Clear played the Diva, of course, on King's Row last week, and I talked about going into this series how Clear has a few tanks in their hero pool they can bring out, like the Junker Queen, Hazard, or Diva. I think we'd kind of expect from Clear. So they are changing up things a little bit from Sakura, but DhillDucks, I don't think they want to do that too much. You know, they're not going to come out with any wacky compositions or really surprise us with some unorthodox picks. I think they're going to play pretty default, and so then you're looking at maps like Surabasa, for example. I mean, even, you know, Runasapi, if you wanted to play maybe a bit more brawl-oriented. But I don't think you're going to complicate things too much, not go to Circuit Real, watch Point Gibraltar. I think you want to keep things pretty default here as you're looking for the next map.
I was kind of hoping that maybe DhillDucks would actually go towards a map that might fare a little bit better for the Sojourn. When they were looking at their last map of the series, they played Surabasa, they had PDK on the Sojourn, and I do feel like that ended up being like a fairly good pick. I don't know. I would kind of think that maybe you attempt the Sojourn over something like the Freya if you feel like you're not finding the same type of value.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen quite a few hit scans as well, saying like, I don't really feel comfortable on the Freya, because you have to be like incredibly precise with the Freya, right? Like, you have a skill shot and you need to land those skill shots. And if you're not landing those skill shots, like what value are you really getting from Freya, right? So when you look at Freya as like a character, like really high skill ceiling, you know, if you're one of the best Freyas in the world, like you're looking at some of the players in Korea, like 8, for example, like the impact you're having is just like insane, right? But Sojourn, you know, been released now for a few years in the game. You know your way around this kind of character. You can get a lot of damage done without necessarily, you know, landing pivotal like railguns all the time, even though that is, you know, the biggest value you can get out of Sojourn. But if you're not comfortable on the Freya, then yeah, maybe you want to lean on something more like a Sojourn. Don't think we're gonna see the Sojourn here on Gibraltar. You know, Freya is so good on this map as well, where there is so much verticality involved. So you see the hero bans come out. So DhillDucks going to go for the Ana ban, and Sakura with the Sombra ban here. I mean, Ana is such a fantastic character on Gibraltar here. So if you don't want to deal with that, I completely understand DhillDucks getting rid of it.
I didn't realize that you were reacting to the fact that Gibraltar had been picked, and I was bringing up Surabasa, and it was because I had something covering up the actual map selection, and now I'm like, oh, okay, well, all the points that I made absolutely don't matter, so sorry about that, Johnny. We're going over to Gibraltar, and I agree with you. I feel like this is kind of one of those OG classic dive maps, having Ana to be able to help bolster up your backline, make sure that those dives are a little bit better. I wonder, though, do we actually see a little bit more Winston here, or do we see these teams opt into Hazard? I feel like both of those tanks can be picked here.
Yeah, we saw Bass actually play some Winston on Surabasa last week, so Bass obviously comfortable on this hero. Whereas you're looking at, you know, Clear's hero pool, where, you know, like Clear isn't necessarily like a big Winston player. You're thinking Clear plays more the, you know, kind of typical like ground tanks, if you will. Can obviously play the Diva, which, you know, could potentially bring it out here on Gibraltar, but I think we'll see less Winston from Sakura Esports. So this is maybe DhillDucks recognizing that, hey, We think we have an advantage in the tank matchup going to Gibraltar because we have a Winston player on our team. But we'll kind of see how these compositions shake out.
I mean, Clear can certainly play the D.Va. We saw the D.Va also on that King's Row. I think you mentioned that as well. But alongside of that, we did see sort of like a Juno Lucio backline still being able to have that speed in order to close the gap. But that speed becomes so much less important on a map like Gibraltar. I think that's why when we take a look at the defense here from Sakura, we do see this Brig, we see this BAP kind of like taking the place of the Ana that you might expect to see as a part of this dive. But now with the Tracer and Freya as the DPS.
Yeah, well, this is a pretty interesting backline as well. We've been seeing a bit of an influx in Baptiste because it felt like Baptiste was just not relevant at the top level for so long. Like, we rarely got to see any Baptiste play whatsoever. But then in week 1, I think especially in North America, you saw teams like Liquid, SSG brought it out as well in their matchup against Liquid as well. So we've been seeing some more Baptiste play, which has been quite interesting. Obviously, part of the reason Baptiste is being played is when some of these support hero bans come in, it limits the hero pool, of course, and Baptiste fills a gap, especially if you're playing more of these D.Va, brawl compositions with Ramatra and stuff like that, right? But it's been interesting seeing some more Baptiste play here now with Sakura playing a pretty defensive composition with the Brigitte and the D.Va to go with it.
Certainly has a lot of anti-dive potential as well when you take a look at some of the kit from Brigitte, just with the shield bash, the whip shot. As DhillDucks come out of the gates with this hazard dive, you're looking at this Genji and the Freya to really help to start racking up some of this damage. They know the D.Va defense matrix can only soak up so much, but it's going to be Razor that's immediately under threat. Now that the D.Va mech is out of the way, though, Clear is going to be a lot easier to get out of the way, and we see DhillDucks now start to make their way through this car wash.
Yeah, Razor crucially stays alive there. Been able to follow up on the damage, get a couple of picks here. Still, for DhillDucks, it's going to be so hard to like really break down this Brig BAP composition with the D.Va defense matrix here as well. Kind of need PDK to open things up here as Radix goes down early to X10.
Ooh, the Kitsune rush now comes out from Fathy Philly. It's just to make sure that you can get a little bit closer to this amplification matrix. And Z does not get a chance to take any advantage of that. A nice bola shot coming up from PDK is going to pave the way for yet another elimination as now the score becomes even. It's going to be a 3v3 on this point, but with Peace getting a nice melee onto Redx, it's going to stop this attack push in its tracks. A nice defense here from Sakura as they only have to invest this amplification matrix to hold strong.
Yeah, but this is what I mean, right? You're looking at Sakura's composition and you gotta get rid of them early. Otherwise, the value from these backliners and the D.Va as well is just going to be overwhelming. They stay alive so well that DhillDucks are just going to decay over time, essentially, from all the damage coming through. They just can't. They're way more vulnerable without some of those heroes, right? And so DhillDucks, the dive didn't work out. They couldn't get picks early, and Sakura, they stay alive, utilizing the defensive abilities they have on their side. And Sakura, they just outlast DhillDucks.
Yeah, you get so much of that Inspire healing coming through from the Brig as well after DhillDucks close the gap. But Sakura now have 4 ultimates that they can rotate through for this next engage. Oh my goodness, the Immortality Field comes in so clutch to be able to save X10 for just a brief while as Razor lets the Genji Blade go. And the rest of the team now from DhillDucks, this is just kind of the overwhelming presence they needed. But the fight's extending. Clear actually does get a D.Va Bomb kill onto Frothy Philly. And now the fight's not looking so hot here for DhillDucks. Unfortunately for Sakura's defense, though, DhillDucks do sneak that payload in under their noses. And so even though Sakura kind of win out the war, they lost the battle here, Johnny, for first point.
Yeah, it's actually a big cap because it kind of felt like Sakura, they were going to bring it back once again. Getting those couple of picks, you get a pick from the self-destruct here as well. But DhillDucks to get the crucial cap, and now 3 minutes on the time bank, they bought themselves some more time here. Really try to break down this pretty sturdy Sakura composition. Oh, here comes the pulse bomb.
Oh. Yeah, the pulse bomb is good to be able to pick up PDK, enough damage onto Razor, and Peace cleans up the rest. And you're right, like this defensive hold is going to be so tough for DhillDucks to break through. Sakura can just maintain their presence on the high ground. Redx can't even get away. And who do you send up there to actually try to take out this stronghold?
Yeah, I mean, you also need to pressure the cart and like try to force some kind of positioning here because Sakura is so well set up, right? That like, realistically, like pass. Are you gonna leap on the plane and try to contest the high ground? It's just way too difficult, right? So instead, Bola shot comes out here, and I mean, Sakura's just already won the fight.
Well, I mean, hey, you talk about leaping on the plane. Razor did actually come out on the Symmetra pick to try to bypass some of this defense, but unfortunately, they walked right into a bullish shot from X10, and that did finish up the fight pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's brutal for DhillDucks because you gotta walk through these narrow chokes and you see Clear playing so far up with the D.Va as well, with the rest of the team. They're comfortably set up on these high grounds. You know, the Symmetra pick, we've been seeing some more Symmetra play. I do kind of see the vision. I see the vision. I see what they're trying to do here. And here comes the Symmetra teleporter, rest of the team coming through.
The Suzu had to be used so early just to make sure that you weren't under threat of getting picked up by something like a bowler shot from long range. And they have to invest so much in terms of being able to play this tiny Overwatch. They eventually do win out this team fight, but how much more can they actually get through? A minute and a half left on the clock. Sakura still have ults to use in this next fight.
Yeah, they do. They have the amplification matrix here, of course. And because, you know, a pretty unorthodox hold here from Sakura, the cart is so far back because you haven't had like the typical Tracer matchup to pressure the cart or anything like that. So DhillDucks here, actually, they have to push this cart forward while Sakura are now set up with these ultimates, ready for another sturdy hold.
Ooh, the downpour though, it's actually not going to get anybody of note, and as Baz tries to go in with the downpour, the rest of his team is getting deleted. Sakura with some great picks, still only really using this amplification matrix here, and now as the time starts to dwindle down, this is going to be last fight. Only a sound barrier right now to DhillDucks' name.
Yeah, and Razor goes over to the Reaper here again. Perhaps using the Shadow Step for their advantage, but X10 has been so on point on Freya this entire series. Now have a bowler shot ready to go as well. Just gotta pick your spot really here to deal a ton of damage and see if the picks are enough. Comes out there, not quite able to capitalize, but they isolate Baz.
Oh, they do isolate Baz, but look at Red X coming in with the save, the sound barrier to help keep him alive. Razor's also able to get Peace out of the way, so it's just going to be 4 members left. Forces Cinnabar to have to use this Brig rally to give enough sustain to Sakura. Maybe that Peace can come back and contribute into this fight. But as we continue to see this time wick down, overtime has started, and it's going to be this Kitsune Rush from Frothy Philly that hopes to get DhillDucks over this line for this second objective. Razor's so close to being able to get this Death Blossom, and as you see that Suzu come out, it's going to give plenty of invulnerability to DhillDucks to come through and hopefully use this Death Blossom, but the defense matrix is just too good, Johnny. No way. This D.Va has been so stressful for DhillDucks to get past.
It's just too much. They just live too long. They disengage from the Kitsune Rush beautifully, and you know, DhillDucks, they do everything they can. They pop the Kitsune Rush, they try to use that momentum in their favor and come up with all the kills necessary, but Clear just stays alive on the D.Va throughout these fights, and then after the DhillDucks initially engage, Clear capitalizes on it as well with the missiles, the great primary fire of D.Va as well, and just clears up the battlefield. It's so difficult for DhillDucks to, you know, stay alive in these fights and pick out all 5 pieces on Sakura. As we take a look at the stats, I mean, Clear is just dominating. Like 23 and 2.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, like disgusting. Really very little deaths across the board here. But I think it's also looking at that damage mitigation, that's what sticks out to me the most as well about this D.Va. It wasn't just soaking up the Death Blossoms. Think about how many just shots from Freya that Clear was absorbing. All of just the general primary fire from the Reaper. I think this has been just a fantastic choice. And as we see Sakura get ready for this attack, let's hear how they're going to approach their attack push.
I feel like our comp should be getting eaten by their comp, but they're not playing Genji or Tracer. I think we should. Don't be afraid to swap backline. I think if they're playing the same comp.
Yeah. I think if we're not getting value, we can.
I'm gonna TP you guys. I'm gonna TP you guys.
I don't want to.
Oh, okay.
They have Sim Ram May. Oh wait. I think this is the case that Go has. You want Kyrie back on or?
Yeah. Weren't there back?
I think so.
Is that ready? What has?
Where are they? Someone.
It's in May.
Someone's gonna see
Okay.
bro.
I for my value, I guess so much
Dropping
value.
Ram no shield. Active shield is swinging. 3, 2, 1. Oh, they TP it out. They carry out. Kuno coolant.
I'm not there. I'm gonna play.
You're getting far. We're getting far. Push point.
Loki nightmare.
Someone play.
Okay,
I got you. May one lower.
We can take high gun. We should
We
take
just need
top.
kill. We just need kill.
Wait,
We got our
can
kill.
Oh, yo. Oh.
Lucio's chasing me.
A little bit.
You look at the Ram's low, Ram's low.
I'm living.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a big car wash throwback heroes. PDK on the May, you got the Symmetra set up on Gibraltar. I'm getting car wash vibes. They're really trying to stall the card out as much as possible. And Sakura gotta now be on the turn and find some of these picks, and X10 just does that. Takes out PDK in a 5v4, and now DhillDucks gonna struggle here to stay alive throughout this fight.
You could tell how much patience that Sakura was coming at this objective with, making sure that they weren't going to fall victim to any of those big symmetric turrets set up like in that car wash, or even just the May. There was a lot of survivability there from DhillDucks. You can't just kind of rush head first into the situation without addressing, you know, who is going to be where. And so Sakura, this was a very fast point A take for them.
Yeah, they're looking dominant so far in this series. They just do a wonderful job, like playing around DhillDucks positioning, finding picks, isolating specific targets, and following up on X10's, you know, great damage here on the Freya. Doing a great job so far. You can see Claire's just in the back line, just like working around all of DhillDucks, trying to find some of these picks.
Clear's gonna have the downpour piece coming up soon with this pulse bomb, and Clear already finds PDK out of Ice Block before you can even see the Blizzard get let loose. Frothy Philly with this Kitsune Rush in the spaceship is also nothing that Sakura is concerned about. They still decide to fight in that. They lose their own Kiriko in the process in Z, but it doesn't matter. The fight feels won. The Hazard Wall to block off any type of contest, and they just can't make it. Sakura win in a very fast fashion, Johnny. Another map under their belt. They're 2-0 now in the series.
Yeah, they're looking dominant. I feel like throughout the series, we're just like re-rating Sakura. Just like, oh, you know, if you're gonna be this good against the DhillDucks, I know DhillDucks, you know, one of the teams kind of like in the bottom of NA fighting for survival when it comes to the promotion relegation, but still, like Sakura, they're looking so impressive with that listening as well. Like they're so organized with the composition. Clear goes, oh, this is the scenario and where I should go Hazard, and they just immediately swap to the heroes required to break down this Symmetra May kind of composition, right, from DhillDucks. So really impressive play from Sakura so far in this series, now up 2-0.
I also loved hearing the strategic element as well, and the confidence to be able to say, don't be afraid to change up your backline depending on what you see. And so being able to have that type of strategic counterattack has been so good for them. And I think we're going to see some really great things out of Sakura for the rest of the season. But I'm hopeful that DhillDucks can maybe take some of these learning experiences and find a way to bring them back for this third map.
Yeah, look. When I said before the match that it's DhillDucks world domination, they're coming for the Overwatch scene, I meant it, okay? This is just a step in the process, okay? Sometimes you're gonna look a bit rougher on the edges. They're scaling. That's right, Rose.
They're scaling.
If you're off to an 0-2 start in Stadium, don't worry. You gotta scale for the late game. So DhillDucks, you know, it's not looking too good right now, but don't worry. 2025 is the year for DhillDucks.
So comebackable. And so true, bestie. They do have another chance to actually pick a map here, though. And so that's where I kind of wonder, ooh, Watchpoint Gibraltar didn't quite work out. Wanted to be able to approach this with this Hazard dive, but versus this Diva, didn't really put the pieces together that even Sakura were kind of expecting to see. So now we see Runasapi picked as the third map. What are you sort of expecting, or what do you feel like DhillDucks could do here to actually make a dent in this series?
Yeah, I mean, Baz also played some Orisa on King's Row in the last week, so if you wanted to bring out something like an Orisa composition, you could do that here if you want to. You gotta try some stuff to change things up. But at the same token, I feel like they're the kind of team that should realistically stick to their guns in this kind of scenario, because Redx is going to play the Lucio, okay? Like, we're not changing up the Lucio. We're not gonna see any like Juno Brig coming out from this team, right? So Redx is going to stick on the Lucio, and the front field is most likely going to be on the Kyrie, right? So you already know what the backline is going to look like for this team. PDK, Freya's just too good in this scenario, and so you're really just looking at Baz as kind of like your tank player to like, what do you want to play? Like, how are we going to affect the way we play this matchup based on our tank choice, of course, like, which is the case so often in Overwatch these days. But it really comes down to Baz. Like, are you going to opt for the Hazard, or would you prefer to maybe go with the Orisa here on Runasapi instead?
Well, then I kind of wonder, if you're expecting that as Sakura, do you actually decide to ban something like the Orisa or like the Lucio if you know that some of these picks could potentially come out? just for total domination in this series.
Okay, so Sakura is actually going to ban the Orisa, so maybe they were kind of expecting some Orisa play to be coming out there from Bass instead. It's going to be the Brig ban from DhillDucks, and look, it's a solid ban for them as well because, like I said, they're just going to play the Lucio Kyrie, right? So if you can ban a support hero like the Brig, for example, that you're not interested in playing anyway, then you're also protect banning for your Lucio Kyrie, right? So it's been solid so far from DhillDucks. They know what their backline wants to play, and they're kind of banning around it.
And I do feel like Brig still gave them a lot of trouble on Gibraltar. Just being able to have that pick, knowing that all of those packs are also going to help out a lot of the solo operating DPS in their line. Not a bad idea to just say, I really don't want to play against that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was just too survivable. Like, there was just too much mitigation in effect there for Sakura. Like, those compositions are so tough. It gave me like flashbacks to, I think it was like 2021, 2022. Like, we were in a big like Vapid Brig kind of meta back in the day. I think it was like Florida Mayhem that potentially played that. Let me know what kind of team that was, but I think it was Florida Mayhem. They played a ton of that, and it's so difficult because they deny all the kind of like the space around the Baptiste, right? And then you play like a pretty mitigation heavy tank as well, and it's just like a no-go zone. Like, if you contest that kind of space, there's going to be Brig bashes and whips, and there's just the BAP is just going to like put down the immortality field, AoE healing. There's just like you gotta find like picks around it to like really break down one of those kind of compositions. And DhillDucks, they weren't quite able to figure that out on Gibraltar, so we head over to Runasapi instead, where maybe we can cater more to these kind of like Lucio compositions now that the Brig is gone.
I think so as well. I feel like the BAP was also better on a map like Gibraltar. Like, yes, Ana was banned out, but I think a lot of the verticality that a map like Gibraltar provides gives the Baptiste better sight lines, make sure that you can actually apply a lot of that healing, maybe even have a better range in terms of your immortality field. And it did make sure that the Freya was not actually getting these 2 taps that we often see Freya have that impact with. Probably not as good of a map here, but who knows? Maybe they just like saw the vision and they want to execute it again. They
saw the vision. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Sakura comes out here now, because I feel like we've still seen quite a lot of flexibility from this team dating back to week 1. Like, Peace was even on the May, at some points on Circuit Real. Like I said, Clear
Sombra.
Able to show that Jungle Queen, Sombra, yeah, you're right, they played Sombra on King's Row, of course. And now, actually, Razor is selecting the Sombra here. But I'm excited to see how this Sakura team kind of like builds their identity, right? Like, how they establish what are their go-to heroes and go-to competitions, what kind of gives them the best win condition, right? And now, I mean, Claire selected the Mauga, which scares me. I'm spooked at this point. But I wouldn't be too surprised if Claire also can bring out this Mauga based on, Claire's hero pool.
Well, Johnny, I hate to break it to you. You missed a lot in that first weekend, and unfortunately, a lot of what you missed was Mauga. It is back. I'm sorry to break it to you, but it does seem to fit a lot of the pattern that we've seen for these North American teams to bring out the Mauga, and in EMEA as well. So Sakura come out with this Mauga. I feel like almost expecting that we might see this type of composition from DhillDucks, but DhillDucks comp is very all in, Johnny.
I would say it's unusual. Baz finds a pick early on the Wrecking Ball, but I'd say the DhillDucks composition is a little unusual. I'd say don't try this at home. Don't play this in comp, because DhillDucks, they're cooking, and it seems to be working out.
It's working, Johnny. I don't know if you can say don't play this at home if like the proof is in the pudding.
All right, please don't do this in my rank games. No. Johnny's
like, please don't do this in my rank games. I couldn't deal with it.
I mean, I would be the Wrecking Ball player, I guess, so I shouldn't complain too much, but the Moira Kiri backline, like, now we're cooking with gas.
Well, the gas is on up to a 10, because we're also going to see this Sombra and this Tracer pick, but out of nowhere, oh my goodness. Wow, just a big headshot there coming through from X10. Razor is gone, but the rest of the team is still thriving, as PDK is going to pick up the Cassidy, and the rest of the team is, just gonna try to do their best, I think. Johnny, now I don't know about this Wrecking Ball comp. Maybe we spoke too soon about this one.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know if any big hero switches will come in here from DhillDucks. We kind of see what they're feeling. But But yeah, this is the state. This is the state of DhillDucks right now. We'll have to see if they can combine, you know, collapse some of these dive heroes, of course. Wrecking Ball is diving in with the pile driver there, and PDK is lurking on this off angle. He's got the post bomb in hand, but it really comes down to these dives now. Can you find some of these picks playing around Sakura?
Oh, everyone's so low though, and unfortunately, Frothy Philly just gets finished off before this Kitsune Rush can come out. And so another big pick here from Sakura is going to net them this first objective with these forward spawns activating and starting to come up on so many ultimates. Feels like they're really now getting the ball moving.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried if some Sakura. I'd just be more alert. I'd be like, okay, there's a Tracer somewhere and a Wrecking Ball on the field, and now a Moira apparently in your backline. So stay alert, but they're doing a good job peeling so far. Have a lot of ultimates in hand. So Xen goes down. Clear is actually going to fall here as well. Seems like 1 health. We're dropping low here. The dive is just menacing here from DhillDucks.
No way. I mean, the cardiac overdrive and just the sustained healing coming through from Cinnabar. You have this sound barrier on top just to make sure that Clear can stay alive. But
are you
even
kidding
with the
me?
double support ultimates, this Coalescence went crazy. DhillDucks actually win that fight.
The double support of the Coalescence, Kitsune Rush, the EMP comes in as well. Yeah, they spent some ultimates. It looked nice. They got the Sunbear and the Kitsune Rush out here from Sakura, so let us see. There's a minefield as well. Razor is going to catch X10 as well, so I guess this is DhillDucks being competitive.
DhillDucks is competitive. They're still winning fights, and they're starting to string these team fight wins together. A nice hack on the Clear. It does force him to have to start to use this cage, and you do get the Tracer caught and with you. It's kind of a small fish, though, out of the big pond. And Frothy Philly still coming up with some big picks. Frothy Philly, Baz, they're really starting to work together now, and this is another team fight win here for DhillDucks.
I love it. I mean, this is just amazing. Like, they're just operating. Oh! No way! Oh, please, not like this.
No way. Oh, I mean, Sakura can still come back from that. Razor is sniffed out in the back line. But Sakura are taking so much damage as they make their way in. Clear comes in with the overrun and eventually does finish up Baz, but PDK is still wreaking havoc in the backline. And Clear is just paving the way through. I mean, this is still a fairly close map here in terms of
It is very close. I mean, it's a little silly, but it is fairly close. Like, I'm surprised that DhillDucks are coming up and, you know, finding some of these picks, you know, working around Sakura's composition, because it really opens up these fights, and then DhillDucks are able to capitalize in these like 4v3, 3v3 scenarios and finish Sakura off here. So yeah, I mean, DhillDucks, they're kind of even there, halfway, you know, time gone here from Runasabi.
Yeah, half of the map left to go, and a Kitsune Rush now to initiate this next fight. As you see DhillDucks start to work up to a couple more ultimates. Z answers the Kitsune Rush in kind, and now what comes next? Red X lets the Coalescence rip again, as the Pulse Bomb swing and a miss here from PDK. Cinnabar feels forced to use the sound barrier here just to make sure that everybody on Sakura is topped up, knowing that DhillDucks really just kind of emptied the tank into this fight. Razor just milliseconds away from being able to commit the EMP, but at least that's an ultimate that they can hold on to for this next fight as Sakura makes their way past that first objective now.
Yeah, I mean, EMP is pivotal here, like you said, going into this fight. DhillDucks, the fact they're able to use Kitsune Rush Coalescence in that fight, not able to find the value. And now, like, with so much meterage building for Sakura, it starts to get scary for DhillDucks if you had any hope of coming back on this map. It's a lot of hack damage coming through there from the virus. Cage, EMP to counter. Right, off to a good start here for DhillDucks.
Counter. Oh, I mean, it was a great encounter and a great theory, but unfortunately the execution just not quite there, as Clear is able to just stay alive, get these smaller eliminations onto the DPS, and Sakura just continue their warpath forward. Johnny, we might be looking at a full completion here if we're not careful on DhillDucks.
Yeah, I'd kind of agree with you. It's not out of the realm of possibility. DhillDucks pushing back the bot now, but you're coming up on a Kitsune Rush. Okay, Deadeye comes through. Oh, the Philly. Okay, that's another great pick there.
It's a good pick. I feel like X10 kind of a sitting duck, haven't used the high noon, but something that DhillDucks capitalize on beautifully. Now it's still an even fight, but as I say that, Z is going to be able to find out Razor. And so now just DhillDucks only really have Baz left alongside PDK, but with these charged railgun shots, we've seen what PDK has been able to do on this hero before, and PDK is able to farm, and somehow Baz is able to get away.
Oh, just a sliver of health left on Baz there, but able to be kept up by Redix coming back on the Moira there as well. But I mean, Sakura are just so kind of like comfortable in this matchup because DhillDucks, they don't have a lot of survivability on their side. They're so all in with these dives, right? So the fact that Sakura, they're able to trade out picks at this point.
Ooh.
Like, they got the lead, they're comfortable. Razor goes down here now. Okay, 4v4. Overclock comes out.
There was a trade, and with this, Kiriko gone, you don't have that Suzu, so maybe this overclock from PDK can just be that much more deadly. Able to find out X10, but it's gonna be a tough road. Sakura still have these double support ultimates, but if they can continue to keep this chaos up and PDK can just keep pumping out this damage on the Sojourn, this is a fight that DhillDucks can eventually win.
Yeah, chaos is the right word. You found the perfect word, Rose. It's chaos. That is what DhillDucks are trying to invoke in this map against Sakura. And yeah, the Sojourn is, you know, quite good here as well because you're getting so much charge from Clear's Mauga play, right? That you can build some of these rails and try to pick out Peace or X10. Kitsune Rush is being traded out here. The flank coalescence!
The flank coalescence, it looks like my ranked games, and just like my ranked games, it's not gonna work out here. Sakura, like, they're just playing around these kids beautifully now. Now they kind of get the picture. DhillDucks, they were able to really work through this chaos and wreak enough havoc that they were able to win out those individual 1v1s or 2v2s. But now I feel like Sakura, they've gotten smart to it. They still have to deal with this EMP, but they kind of know what's up now, Johnny.
Yeah, they're doing a great job playing together to mitigate some of these off angles and these dives coming through, right? Zed staying alive, picks off RSR here. And Peace finds a pick onto Redix as well. The dive is just not working out for DhillDucks at this point. And with a minute left to go here in Runasapi, I mean, Sakura are going to approach DhillDucks' very own spawn here as they push this bot forward.
At least the Wrecking Ball is able to provide a lot of point presence as the spot starts to get pushed forward. But Sakura, they're playing it safe. They know that they don't want to extend too far out in the open because they could just get caught off guard. Maybe they get picked off if they overextend and Baz comes out of the gates with the Mauga. So that could be one way that they would have been caught with their pants down. Razor also actually really helping out in a lot of these fights, but Johnny, this is where things are going to start to get really hard. Despite the fact that DhillDucks are winning out the team fight here now, they are going to have to do the rest of this map in overtime.
Yeah, talk about an uphill battle. You gotta push the bot all the way over to your enemy side and, you know, win a couple of fights at that. You need some hero plays to come through here. The good thing is that you coming up on some big ultimates. You have the Overclock and the Kitsune Rush at your disposal here. Pulse Bomb in hand for Peace, but Frottifili, you know, with the Suzu, able to mitigate that with a nice little skill shot here. So Sakura, they can kind of chill this fight. Oh, they want to pop. No, PDK, no! You can't go down with the Overclock.
Oh, that was such a big fight-winning ultimate for DhillDucks, but without that damage, you're just lacking so much of that one-shot potential. Doesn't mean that the rest of the team can't pick up here, but X10 being able to get this Mauga out of the way, I feel like Sakura, they are going to just... Oh, can they actually... Oh, wait, no, don't tell me.
Yeah.
Don't tell me.
Well,
Don't tell me.
It was look, it was a one-on-one, Rose. It was a Tracer Sombra one-on-one. Like, come on. That was not a C9. That was not a C9. That was just
It's
tough.
not a C9, but like, but how do you not play with the overtime?
They were trying, I think they were trying to translocate like up into the sky to buy themselves some time, and they were just a bit too far away from the bot. I mean, it all just fell apart. It all
So
fell apart.
don't Zoe me. Like, this is a you problem. You're the C9.
You gotta help us out here.
I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. The eye test.
C9 or no?
I mean, there was a cart. No one was on the cart when people needed to be on the cart. Feels kind of C9 adjacent at the very least. I understand it's a one-on-one, but that doesn't change the fact that you gotta stick to the payload, especially when you're in OT.
Okay, that was a broad definition. Come on now. Like Mag C9 earlier on Saravasa. This not a C9. It was a 1-on-1. It was a risky duel. And I don't blame them for not being on the card.
Yeah, but by definition, if you're supposed to be on the card and you're not on the card, you see 9. Like, I don't know.
No,
maybe that's just
look at
me.
this.
Maybe that's
They
just
TP
me.
up
For the
this
sake of
guy.
this,
Oh, they didn't come out of stealth after they translocated up. Yeah, it was.
That was that. Anyway, DhillDucks, dive approach there. There was a very, very brief window where I was like,
they're doing
but
it.
I quickly gave up, and I quickly gave up on that. It really felt like Sakura had the upper hand in all, like on all the
well, hear
maps
me
in
out.
this entire series.
Hear me
I mean, I guess I have to because I get paid to. But yeah.
Please hear me out while appreciating what I have to say. Like they went out with
That's not
Aura.
how this works.
Like this is Aura. Come on now. Like this is what I've been talking about, so with DhillDucks, okay? The fact they come out and Redix is flanking with Coalescence and they try to go for this dive approach. If you could, it is an approach. Out of all the approaches, this is one of them.
Yeah,
this is
that is
DhillDucks at their
correct.
finest to me. This is why they're going to
Of
win
all
over
time.
fans. The fact they're able to play compositions like these.
Well, I mean, like, to actually put another feather in the cap, this could have worked. Like, it was working. Like, we have to give them the moments
Yeah,
of
but it's-
brilliance with this comp. And think about it. How many times do you feel like you get practice against this comp? Like, Johnny sees it out of the gates. You could tell. You could actually, like, visualize the expression he must have had on his face looking at these 5 heroes next to each other. Truly, where do you get the practice against this?
I mean,
that's
you
true.
don't. Usually, Sakura now one of the teams who got to play against it. Yay! I'm sure it's gonna come in handy down the road. But yeah, it was a risky play. All right, it was a very greedy dive composition. Worked out until it didn't work out, and that's how they went down. Now Sakura get their first dub on the board, so congratulations to them. If we're looking at that Sakura squad, though, we have to talk about Clear. I feel like he was an extreme standout for this team, especially on map 2. I think his diva just really did so much for them in terms of elimination, damage negation. Like, my personal MVP, I don't even know who's going to get the player of the match, but for me, it's Clear.
Yeah. I know, I agree with you, and I'm so happy that Clear gets to see some playtime as well, because like I said, like rode the bench on Nightmare for so long, you know, in the shadows of Kaffa instead, but now Clear able to put on full display here in OWCS as well, like what Clear can do when you know provided some starting playtime here, okay. So yeah, really happy for Clear, you know, pretty impressive performance there in this series against DhillDucks, but overall really happy for Sakura. You know, this was a really encouraging 3-0 win. It is against DhillDucks, but still you can really build on this, and now you're looking at some of the other teams in the NA region, and perhaps looking forward to some other more winnable matches.
Indeed. We do have an interview as well. Peace will be joining us for a few questions. So let's bring Peace in. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time. Long time no see. You get the first dub of stage 2 on the board. How do you and the team feel right now?
Well, we're feeling great. Obviously, you know, first win. Been playing a lot recently, and I hope it shows today.
Yeah, I definitely think it did. I mean, I think you looked really impressive, and as well, dealing with some of the stuff that DhillDucks threw out. You know, there was like a Maze sim on Gibraltar, which maybe you had an easier time kind of like dealing with. You find some of those picks. But what were you thinking during Asape when you saw what they had in mind with the Wrecking Ball composition?
Well, bro, because we called it to, Clear was like, they're gonna play the unkillable backline, but I didn't know which, like, there's so many. So then they played Kirimura, and it's just like, what can you do? It's the Ducks. It's the Ducks.
It's the Ducks. I feel like we've all been so excited to be able to see them, but also really excited about Sakura. I mean, Peace, I'm kind of wondering if you could speak to like just the team dynamic so far. How have you all been finding working together in stage 2? And yeah, just like what's the team comms like? How's the synergy? We got a little brief glimpse there on Gibraltar.
I think Clear is someone, like, obviously someone who hasn't been played in a while, and it's a little rough around the edges, but I think I've been finding a lot of love with Clear. It gives a lot of esque of like my other tank friends I've played with in the past. Really aggressive, really not scared to push the enemy into their spawn. Especially with his past experiences, it's really been nice to play with Clear. Obviously, the core with me and Z, we revived X10 from the dead, pulled Valeria from Radicad. And it's also my call team a little bit, so we got bits and pieces all over, but I think the chemistry is going to show, especially against Geekay next week.
I love that reject.
So excited.
Redemption art from the team. Also, did you just call him your tank friends? Like, do you sort your friends by roles?
Nah. Like, cause my previous tank players have like always been super like aggressive and like push people into their spawn. But Clear's someone I like playing with a lot.
Right. No, and it showed. The synergy was on display today. It was a great victory for you and the team. We can't wait to see more of those in the future. Also, before I let you go, a quick congratulations to you because you are our player of the match. Thanks to your performance. Huzzah! Imaginary handshakes. Peace. Thank you so much for taking the time, and we hope to see you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Peace. Sakura getting that dub over the DhillDucks, who are passing the vibes check, but so far no dub on the board. Well, there's still many more weeks of play to come, so there's still hope and at least a lot of fun ahead of us. So let's take a look at the standings as we're wrapping this first series in the NA region. And we're seeing some movement here, of course. DhillDucks movement trending downward.
Well.
Oh well.
Let's talk about Sakura instead. 1-1, Zoe. Let's talk about the positives instead. They get that win against DhillDucks, and crucial win because you want to avoid the bottom two slots there. And it is a double-header week for Sakura, so they're playing again tomorrow against GK, just like P said, and that is going to be a tougher matchup because GK obviously amazing performance at the Champions Clash in the form of Nightmare back then. But it's going to be a way tougher task. Can see if some of this momentum can maybe propel them to a good result against GK tomorrow.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at their schedule. Week 3, they got Extinction ahead of them.
Winnable.
So, winnable. Week 5, SSG. Winnable, apparently, given the current...
Apparently.
Winnable.
Yeah, you know what? They could be ending the stage in the middle, the top of the middle of the pack. Who knows? Who knows? Everything is possible. We hope, of course, for every team that they experience an upward trajectory. For now, we're heading into a quick break, and then we're back with our last match of the day. Team Liquid will be going up against Extinction. You don't want to miss it. Or we just stick around. Never mind.